I'm not sure we've ever seen anything quite like Jayson Tatum's recovery so far from the Achilles tear that he suffered just 4.5 months ago. He is already back on the court, and not just back on the court, but moving at a pretty impressive level. The season's just under a month away from starting, and obviously he's gonna miss a decent chunk of this year, but I think he might miss a lot less of the season than we think, and in a weak Eastern Conference, it certainly could change the projections on the Celtics from what I believe was in a lot of ways an expectation that they were going to be just kind of a rollover year for them, a transition year, maybe even a tank year in a lot of ways for this team. That might not be nearly as much the case. So with that being said, before we hop in to discuss exactly what I mean, I'll show you all this video that he released. This is part of the YouTube video that he released yesterday. And you can see, again, keep in mind, tore his right Achilles tendon. He's moving and planting his feet pretty well. He's running the court in this clip. You see him running the court. Like, I know it's not all super high level, explosive, aggressive movement, and you wouldn't expect that this early. But in 4.5 months to be back on a basketball court, planting and moving and running and cutting and jumping and shooting and doing this much exercise and working up the level of sweat that he clearly works up in this video, as you can see at the end, like, this is not normal for an Achilles recovery. And I will say, I think a lot of us, if you're an NFL fan like I am, I like the NFL. A couple years ago, y'all might remember when Aaron Rodgers suffered a torn Achilles and in week 1 for the Jets, and there were like rumors that he's going to try to come back by the end of the season, which is a 4-month time frame in the NFL. And it was like for a little bit there were like legitimate rumors that it was potentially possible. It didn't actually turn out it didn't actually wind up happening, and it wound up being like maybe it was a little bit more hyped up than the actual realistic chance of him legitimately returning was. But that was in a 4-month time span. I think the fastest return to play that we've seen in the NBA from a torn Achilles was Kobe Bryant, who did it in about 8 months. If we look at comparisons for his torn Achilles, Kevin Durant took him 18 months to return to play, but that was also delayed by COVID, which changed a lot of things. Clay, 14 months, but that was a Achilles after tearing his ACL, so he was rehabbing from multiple injuries, and I think that was a more complicated situation. For Kobe, it was only about 8 months, April 12th to December 8th, but he only played 6 games from December 8th and on that season, and then got injured again and missed the rest of the year. And then Dominique returned about 10 months later from an Achilles tear. It looks like 9.5 months, and didn't miss a beat. He finished 5th in MVP voting the year he came back, and was able to still play at a really high level at age 32, and return in about 10 months. So based on those timelines for return to play, let's say he was on the shorter timeline of that, 9 months from, when did he tear his, hold on, when did he tore it? On May 12th. So 9 months from May 12th would be like February, if he were to return somewhere early to mid-February, if it was a 9-month return. But the pace that he looks like certainly looks like it's on a very aggressive timeline, maybe more on that Kobe timeline. He said that he has been rehabbing. I think it was, I forget exactly who said it. Was it him or was it somebody else? But I saw a quote earlier this week that he's been rehabbing 6 out of 7 days a week, and like really is working super hard, try to get back super quickly. If Tatum is able to return in an 8-month time frame and you get him back by pretty soon after the new year, or even if it's more aggressive than that and he's back by December, but again, December or January, you get Jayson Tatum back by then. Sure, he probably won't play back-to-backs at first. Sure, it'll take him a little bit probably to get back up to game speed and stuff like that. But we can look at the ESPN bet odds for this season for the Eastern Conference. Cavs are favored, then the Knicks, then the Magic, the Hawks, the Sixers, the Pistons, and the Celtics. The Celtics are currently the 7th highest favored team to win the Eastern Conference. Now, these are, to be fair, regular season, I believe, predictions. I think these are regular season odds, and I don't think they're going to win the Eastern Conference in the regular season or anything like that, but their title odds are right in the middle, 15th in basketball right now at plus 5,000. This is a team that, if fully healthy by February, even without Kristaps Porzingis and Al Horford and a lot of the pieces that they have lost from last season, is still a team in a, I would think, not that loaded Eastern Conference. I think we all agree that, I mean, the East isn't awful, but it's certainly not nearly as strong as it was. The team that won the East last season, the Pacers, is not even close to the same with no Miles Turner or Tyrese Halliburton. The Cavs have been a rollover in the playoffs for years now team. We'll see if that changes this year. The Knicks, I mean, the Celtics have, for the most part, owned the Knicks, although obviously that wasn't the case this year. It looks like the Knicks were probably going to win that series anyway, even before Tatum got hurt. So that's obviously not a good-looking matchup for them. But the door remains open for the Celtics to be a very competitive team and a very interesting team that certainly may not be the rollover, easy out that people expect. And yes, there are some big man questions when Chris Boucher, Luka Garza, and Neemias Queta are your main big man options. That might be a little concerning. And their guards obviously aren't quite as developed and as experienced and as elite on the defensive end of the court as you'd potentially like in the past. Anthony Simons coming in instead of Drew Holiday, but you still have Derek White, you still have Jaylen Brown, you still have Sam Hauser, you still have Peyton Pritchard, you still have guys like, I have some faith in a Luka Garza and Neemias Queta, guys like that. Those guys could take a step forward. Maybe Xavier Tillman becomes a contributor again. He used to be. I don't really know what happened there, to be totally honest. He's only 26. Jordan Walsh, Baylor Shireman, guys like that will have an opportunity to grow into a bigger role this year and become bigger contributors on this team. Same thing with a guy like maybe a Josh Mino. There are some names that are lurking around the fringes of this team that if one or two of those guys takes a step forward, especially one of their bigs, this could be a really good team once Tatum comes back, because a Tatum-Brown duo that is surrounded by the depth of the Anthony Simonses and Derek Whites and Sam Hausers and Peyton Pritchards, if you can get a decent big man rotation around that, it's the core of a legitimately good team, especially if a Jordan Walsh or a Baylor Shireman or somebody like that is able to take that next step forward and become a consistent key piece to their rotation. Again, I have no confidence that this team is going to be a serious title contender at this point, but I certainly think it's a lot more likely than I did a couple weeks ago. I was operating with the thought process of Tatum probably not being back till post All-Star break. At the very earliest, and even then likely being rusty for a while, getting himself back into the swing of things, and this being a team that maybe stumbles into the playoffs as a low seed, isn't a great team, and just winds up being a uncompetitive first round out. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think come April, come May, this is a scary playoff team that you're probably not going to want to see if they're healthy. And I mean, I'll just say this, if the Celtics wind up being the 6 or the 7 seed, it's not a team I'm going to want to see with Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum in the first round of a playoff series, especially if any of their bigs or any of their role players truly do take a step forward. And again, there's always potential for addition as well. I mean, they have managed to free up a lot of contract space with some of the subtractions to the team that they made this offseason. So there will be a little bit more flexibility, at least, to potentially make some moves if they decide to explore that route throughout the season. As of right now, I think it'll be a hold pass, see how the start of the season goes. Can you hang around 500 until Tatum comes back? And if you can, you might be in a really good spot to be a serious threat this year. The aggressiveness at which it seems that Tatum is, again, getting better, though, and rehabbing is a really good sign for Celtics fans everywhere that he is locked in and ready to go and probably will be back impacting the team in a very serious way this year. So if I was a Celtics fan, I'd be very excited by this. But with that being said, I mean, that is going to do it for today's video. I hope y'all did enjoy. If you did, make sure you hit that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe. I'll be back with more 2K content very, very soon, and I appreciate y'all. Peace.